Yeah, all right. Do I have to wait another minute? Do you guys mind if I start a minute early? All right. So my name is Amanda Berlin. This is Lee. Last minute he got called out to a customer engagement in California, so he couldn't make it, so I brought him with me instead. If you want to take any pictures, he now has his own Twitter account. So, do whatever you want with it. So this is, so you've inherited a security department, now what? The idea of this talk came from, or talk and then book, came from a ranty blog post. When I want to rant, I end up writing. A couple years ago, I was just pissed off that every environment that I saw had the same problems over and over again because nobody ever did the basics. Oh, shit. Sorry. Yeah. Like plugging in the cables all the way. And it was just kind of all this stuff out there is free that you can do. It just takes a little bit of work, and nobody's doing it. So I wrote the blog post and then started talking to O'Reilly, and it turned into a book. So that's me. I work at Hurricane Labs as an information security architect. We do Splunk implementation and managed service. We do managed service stuff around that. We have a SOC, that kind of stuff. I've worked in healthcare, ISPs. I've done the Hurricane Lab thing now for almost 2 years. Lee works for Leviathan. And I'm not going to introduce him. No. He's not here, yeah. So that's my Twitter handle and my blog. I haven't updated it recently, but I've been kind of busy. This is the book. It's not out in print yet, but you can pre-order it online. It's on Safari Online. The first 4 chapters are out now. And it should be out in print in March. And O'Reilly has been absolutely wonderful to work with. So if anybody's ever interested in creating content or writing a book or anything, I really highly recommend them. It's a Malayan porcupine, if anybody's curious. I wanted a different animal. But the porcupine's good. I wanted the narwhal first, and they said I couldn't have the narwhal. You can't pick a mythological creature. It has to be a real animal. It's real, yeah. So I thought, the porcupine's a pretty good defensive animal anyway, so it fits the title well. Why couldn't I have a narwhal? You couldn't pick, it was already on a book. You can't have one you can't reuse. There's not, different kinds of narwhals, so. So here's the premise. So there's, like I said, there's so much out there that nobody's doing. You just want to be better than the next guy. And we'll go through a lot of the free and easy stuff that you can do, some of the stuff that's free and not super easy, and then finish it out with stuff that probably costs a lot of money. And I like this quote. Many attacks on internet and network systems have no particular target. The attacker simply sends a large broadcast that uses any unprotected system as a staging point from which to launch an attack. We know this. Using computers without basic protections like firewalls, antivirus, and user education not only affects your own business, but many other businesses as the virus is spread around their internet. So that's from the Internet Security Alliance Guide. We're just trying to bulk up the overall security of the internet. One of the first steps you should probably take when you're in an organization is work with the data stakeholders, work with C-level executives, that kind of stuff. You don't want to just start changing shit. Things can go wrong, and you don't want everybody to be running into your office because you've, taken down a million things. Even a simple Nmap scan will take down some serious stuff. I've seen it take down full phone systems, VPN endpoints. Like, it's always something that you want to plan out. You can tactfully explain to them all of the stuff that you can do for free. Like, all executives like the fact that when you come to them and say you can fix all of these issues and you can do it for free. I mean, how often does that happen? You want to show them that you've done your due diligence and you've done everything that you can possibly do before you go back to them and ask for money. When you talk to them, depending on the size of your organization, you can create a task force. You can, if you don't have a security department yet and you're building one, that's the point when you want to actually have a plan to go forward. In that plan should be milestones. You should know what your risks are and what keeps you up at night. Every business is going to be different. You might not have any card data or healthcare data, anything like that, but you might have, some trade secret that you never want your competitor to have. So everybody's going to have their own risks, and that's what you want to focus and build your plan around. So asset management is huge. I've not seen yet one place that can do asset management right. They'll have maybe know 90% of what's on their network. It's one of the biggest hurdles I see people trying to overcome. That should be your a primary focus. It's definitely not easy, but having one source of truth. So I've also seen where, we know what domain controllers we have. They're in, there's a list on in DNS, but oh wait, we have 10 subdomains and we're not sure where all those are. But we have it on SharePoint too, but we also have this Excel spreadsheet and nobody knows which one's right. Visibility through your network. So those subdomains, knowing what you do and don't have access to. If it's a bigger corporation, you might not have access to anything that's been delegated. Drawing out where exactly you will have that visibility at is going to be a key point in asset management. And automating it. So you don't want to have to sit there month by month and do it all in a spreadsheet by hand, pulling data from the different areas. You want it to be something that is pretty seamless. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of your time wasted on trying to figure out what all is out there. And then don't forget the cloud. Just because it's not on your LAN doesn't mean you're not going to be responsible for the security of it. So starting with the free and easy. This is a pretty cool website, osintframework.com. OSINT, so if anybody doesn't know what OSINT is, it's open source intelligence. Stuff that you can get out on the internet about a company that is public knowledge, or maybe shouldn't be public knowledge, but it's still out on the internet. If you're looking to switch jobs, or if you're already somewhere, you can do all of this OSINT against your company without causing any problems. Just more data collection. This website's kind of just a little GUI that'll go through and show you which tools are out there, which websites are out there for the different categories. Another thing that you can do is build with. This will tell you what your web servers are built on. You might not know. Joe from 10 years ago created your website on a Windows 2000 box in IIS, and it's not in your asset list. It's not anywhere that you've seen it before. But you can find it with Google. You can find it. You can find out what's actually on there, so you know what you're going to start to secure. There's a lot of scanning tools and stuff that'll try and attack that the different technologies out there, and you don't want anything public facing, obviously, to be insecure out there on the internet. Recon NG is pretty cool for OSINT. It will go out there and so it's written like Metasploit is. You can load modules, that kind of stuff. It's kind of like Maltego. If anybody's used Maltego before, it's just command line instead of the pretty GUI. it will look for all of the different subdomains and other things like email, that kind of stuff, which an attacker is going to, anybody has access to, right? So that could be a primary focus for you to start to secure. The harvester is a Python script that's included with Kali. You can download it, whatever, and we'll search LinkedIn, Google, Facebook, whatever, for email addresses for your domain. This is what I used. I did an internal phishing user education awareness at the hospital I used to work for. This is what I used for the first round of attacks because this is what everybody else has access to. Super easy. It takes like less than 5 minutes to come up with an email list of everybody's addresses that are out there. Those are the ones that are going to start to get hit the most. They're the ones that are going to get phished the most. Those are the people that you want to bulk up training on. That kind of stuff. Something else for OSINT is Shodan. Another great tool for asset management. You never know what's going to be out on the internet. That link right there, I think it's like $5-10 to buy his book. It's a pretty good book. We'll show you a bunch of different tools and search queries that you can run on Shodan. Run them against your domain. Run them against your IP address list. Lots of people have never run a vulnerability scanner on their network, right? Several places that I've worked so far, I show up and no, exactly. What is that? Why should I have to run a vulnerability scanner? And they don't want, we all know that you need to do that, but why, how are you going to let them know that it's worth the money? Get a trial, run a scan against even a subset of your network and say, look, this is physical proof, this is what we found, this is what can happen. And then down the line, after you've fixed what you've already found in the trial vulnerability scanner, you can go further from there. Best practice group policy objects. So I, for a long time, was a Windows admin. Yay. Yeah, right. Yeah. That's the Lord. Thank you, Todd. Yes, thank you. Somebody has to do it, right? I, at one point, had a printed out copy of every GPO on our network and went through them hand by hand. Boy, was that a nightmare. Yes, right. There's a lot of things that you can do with your policy. Like locking down new additions to Active Directory. Somebody joins a PC to Active Directory, and you don't know where it is. You don't know. It could be some new help desk analyst that doesn't know the policies that you need antivirus. You need to do system hardening, that kind of stuff. Just adds it to the domain, plugs it in, and it can just go. You can use your policy to lock down all new additions, so they're actually forced at that point to do the system hardening. They only have the option to reboot. They're not they can't do anything else, install any programs, anything like that, until they either place it in the correct OU, do the other. You can do local GPOs for system hardening. That way, if anything ever leaves your domain, it's already hardened. You don't have to worry about it contacting domain controllers for any changes. And there's, I could talk for days and days about GPOs, but that's the basics. As few as possible domain admins. So how many places have you been where all of the programmers have domain admin, all of, help desk has domain admin, everybody gets domain admin. Because it's easier. You can install all the software and it always works. You can always contact whatever share you want. It's great. Everybody should have it just because it's easier. No, unless you know what the hell a domain admin is and what they can do, you shouldn't be one. Getting rid of that's difficult though too. So I put it under free and easy because in concept, like you'd think it'd be easy. Sometimes it's more of a people thing, right? So they're so ingrained that everything's going to always work that they don't want that power taken away from them. So sometimes that can be difficult. Or if, the the DA account is actually, running a service or something, if you take them out and it breaks shit. Getting rid of open shares is a cool Nmap script. You don't have to write that down. That will search the network for anything that's an open share. Open shares are bad. Everybody has access to it, unless you want to use it kind of like a canary in the coal mine type thing for detecting malware, ransomware, whatever. There's also one I'm pretty sure there's one in PowerShell that you can do too, that will go out and search for all open shares. Disable Telnet and other insecure protocols. I know Telnet's fun. Everybody knows the port already. And other secure protocols. So like lights out cards. That protocol that lights out cards use for servers is super insecure. And they also usually have default creds. So you can just hop on any box you want, just because that's still open and nobody ever changes the passwords for ILO cards. Then, honestly, there's places that have, shit equipment out there that doesn't support anything other than Telnet, so you're not going to be able to always shut it off, but you can alert on the use. Locking down login over HTTPS. No brainer, right? This is a F5 device that I found. I did the social engineering CTF last year at DEF CON, and they give you it's a competition where they give you a company and a list of things to find out about them. So I did all that OSINT research that I talked about for Frontier, and they didn't have their F5s locked down to HTTPS. You could just all of them. Like I found, I don't know, probably 50 of them at least for them that were just all the same. People still store plain text passwords. Why? The first pen test that the hospital that I worked for had was actually performed by, it wasn't Trusted Sec yet. Another company, and one of our network admins saved all of the passwords for the organization in a password-protected Excel spreadsheet. It's password protected, right? It's cool. Like, I don't think at that point they got domain admin in 5 minutes, maybe. It wasn't even because we hadn't done any of this hardening. Absolutely none of it. I have amazing horror stories about that place. No open Wi-Fi. Another horror story. We had completely open Wi-Fi there. I was working at the help desk at the time. Got a call from a lady that said the Wi-Fi wasn't working, and it was one of our duties to go, help the patients be able to connect to the Wi-Fi so they could do whatever they needed to do. And I'm like, all right, well, what room number are you in? I'll come up there and we'll get this fixed. She's like, no, I'm over on so and so street. Oh, okay. Like, she was just calling to let us know that her internet wasn't working because that's what she relied on was our open Wi-Fi. Which was also like it got DHCP and DNS from our domain controllers, so that's amazing. Good thing she didn't know how to connect to it that well. No shutting ports that are unused and setting up port security. You don't want somebody to just be able to walk in and plug into the wall and act like they belong there and do whatever the hell they want, because that port is more than likely, if you don't have it shut off or configured correctly, going to be on your main network, right? VLAN 1, where everybody likes to keep everything. They'll have access to everything. So you want to. There's a couple of different pieces of software that will kind of alert on that. You can set up a network access control, which also costs money, but later on down the line, we did it all manually. We looked at all of the switch ports and just shut them off all manually on 70, 80 switches, which isn't fun, but it offers a lot of protection. Setting up port security so nobody can walk up, unplug somebody else's PC and plug into it. Port security will automatically detect that and shut off the port. For the love of God, disabling SSL and switching to TLS. So this percentage was, I don't know, I gave this talk, kind of a version of this talk 6 months ago, and that was a status that 33% of HTTPS servers are vulnerable to Heartbleed, Drown, Poodle Freak, all the fancy name vulnerabilities that get their own logos. You can use SSL Labs to test your sites to see if they're vulnerable for any of this, instead of doing the work yourself. This is just a cool tool that will tell you And this is how to fix. SANS has a great list on how to be on the news for, healthcare provider, or, this store lost so many thousand credit card numbers, whatever. And endpoint encryption is going to definitely help with that, and that's free. Configuration backups, and not only backups, restricting who have access to the backups. That backup is, pretty important. Somebody can walk away with that and do some pretty bad stuff. You don't want it just sitting on a server that anybody has access to. Patch your Linux boxes, because everybody always forgets to do that. Can we please, for the love of God, remove Java off of everything? Yeah, and Flash. Yes, just kill it. And Silverlight. It keeps coming back. I don't know. There's third-party patching software that will update it for you, but why have to worry about updates when you can just remove it? Block browsing from servers. Should be a no-brainer. I've seen porn ads pop up on domain controllers. No, why even? Oh my God. Yeah, those DCs have a lot of power. That streaming comes in really quick. Get all the HD you want. Not only logging unsuccessful logins, but logging successful logins. There's a lot of correlation that you can do with those. If somebody's, didn't successfully log in 10 times and then they did in rapid succession, that might be something that you want to look into. We already talked about that. ILO cards always have a default password. There's a Metasploit module that you can run against your network that will tell you where all your ILOs are. I think maybe it's just for Dell, but I'm not positive. HP it does too? All right. Just do your DNS servers and DCs should only be doing that. That's their main role. That's like in a Windows environment. That's your key device. If something happens to those, that's not going to be good. Like I was talking about the lady with the Wi-Fi. So that DC that gave her DHCP addresses over Wi-Fi on our public Wi-Fi also had SQL installed. And that SQL instance was running the database backend for our public web server, which was dual homed, so you could access like both networks, and there was no firewall in between. So you could go full circle. You could come in from the internet, get from our IIS-6 box, get from there. You could RDP from that web server to the DC that had the SQL server on it, because the vendors that created the website needed access to the SQL database. And then, get out to the guest network and then just repeat. Turn off DNS zone transfers. People can glean a lot of information from transferring your full zone. I already covered that. Open mail relays. There's a great list out on the internet of servers that have open mail relay that you can just send whatever you want to whoever you want and pretend whoever you want, whoever you want to be. It's really easy to use to send mail. Right. I use them all the time. FTP too. There's a good list of free the email. Good list of FTP servers out there that don't require auth. Forcing advanced auditing for ransomware detection. So this is a Splunk capture. Can you tell where the ransomware started encrypting stuff? Right. That's going to be detectable. It's not always possible. Turning on advanced auditing on endpoints can really kill their disk usage, RAM, whatever. But when possible, it's a great detection tool. At that point, it might be too late, but at least you can, stop it when it's on its way. This is NetDisco. So earlier when I was talking about turning off the ports, that kind of stuff, this fixes it so you don't necessarily have to do everything by hand. It will tell you, it's free software. At one point, it was kind of a pain in the ass to set up. But it will show you what's connected on what port. It will give you the MAC address, how long it's been connected, the port history, how many versions of iOS you have in your infrastructure. Huge list of different things. It'll tell you if the port's on or off. Just a great tool. I think you should put it in anywhere. Just great for the price. Don't freight your printers. Anybody remember when this happened? We've sent out a bunch of Nazi shit to printers everywhere in the world. During the book and during this talk and whatever, I asked all the red teamers I know, because I'm really, really not that good at offensive stuff, right? So I'm like, all right, what are some of the top things that you find that will get you domain admin, will get you access to sensitive data, whatever? They're like, you know what? People leave, their domain admin or, regular admin accounts, plain text on printers all the time. This has access to a share that it can scan to or whatever. It's just easier to put, that admin account in there, so it just works. So some software that you can install. All of this is free. So URL scan is for Windows boxes that are running web servers. They'll filter on certain things like somebody trying to attack your website. It will see and block certain requests that it sees in the logs automatically. Fail to ban scans log files on Linux. Looks for weird stuff like a bunch of failed login attempts. What else? Like scans, that kind of stuff, and will automatically block in the local Linux firewall. Modsecurity is a web application firewall. It'll do full HTTP traffic logging. It'll do a passive security assessment continuously, and it'll do real-time monitoring of the website. Microsoft Baseline Security Analyzer. Great to run on any new server spin up, should be just part of the process. Tells you, what you're doing on the server, if it's secure or not, as far as Microsoft goes. And then Emmet. So I always forget what it stands for. Enhanced Mitigation Experience Toolkit. Is that right? All right, sweet. Looks for like 0-day type behavior on Windows boxes, and will block it. We implemented this by hand, which sucks. But there's a great blog on Trusted Sex website that will show you how to script it out and install it everywhere. I think this is a pretty cool concept, and all of these are backwards, so I'm just going to go through them. All right, so an IR bug out bag. Like when the shit really hits the fan, you don't want to be scrambling around trying to find bits and pieces of things everywhere that you might have to use. You want bootable USB drives, CDs, whatever, to different. There's Kali. There's what are some of the other ones, like Memtest, Cuckoo. What is it? SIF. Oh. Base images that you normally use. Laptop that isn't on the domain, because if something happens to your domain controller, you want to be able to still log in. Lots of storage for downloading logs, if you can't access storage, that kind of stuff. Blue Team Handbook, it was before I even created the blog that started all this shitstorm. I read that. It's all on IR. It's a great book. It just didn't cover everything that I wanted it to cover, so I'd like to think it's a good make-up for what that one doesn't cover. But for incident response, it's amazing. Yeah, you got it right there. Author's pretty cool guy. Cables, MiFi, Network Tap, Raspberry. Your, in particular, IR playbook. Sans has some that you can use and kind of go off of. They have huge just form, like step by step, what you should be looking for what type of incidents. It's great to use. And next, because you might be up for a while. So, the stuff that isn't super easy. Start to Purple Team. There's been some great Purple Team talks over the last, several years when this started to become a whole concept. Fish your users, scan the inside of your network in between pen tests. Don't just rely on the vulnerability assessments. Start to learn what the offense is going to be, and the attackers are going to be coming after. It's great that you're going to be good at Blue Team, but you should also know, without saying a Sun Tzu quote, what they're doing. User education, super, super important. Never use a stick. Always use a carrot. You don't want to piss off your users. They're going to be your best defense. They're the most targeted, and one of your biggest risks is phishing through users that are going to give up their password, give access to their desktop to somebody that calls in and pretends they're from support. You need to give them as much training as they need. Go through different steps. The one that I had put in, there were every month we would phish anywhere from 50 to 2,000 users at a time and automatically send them through training. After that, anytime they would report anything, so like either a phishing email from us or one that came in from the outside, they would get entered into a drawing. So it's something that they know then that they want to participate in. It's going to be your greatest help to those kind of threats. There's a script out there that you can run to randomize your local admin passwords. That way you're not doing password reuse on, 3,000 and, PC endpoints across the environment. Makes it kind of harder to pivot. And least privilege is a concept, not giving Debbie and HR access to the SQL servers, not giving everybody access to backups, that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's in a smaller environment, it's not as easy, especially inside the IT organization, just because everybody's kind of a jack of all trades. They need to have access to certain things just because you're a small group. But at a certain point, you need to have role separation. Application whitelisting instead of blacklisting. If you do application blacklisting, you're just like trying to do whack-a-mole on all the different applications that are out there. You can spin up an exe that's named anything. There's no way you're going to detect on that if you do blacklisting. This is not easy. If you, going back to asset management again, if you don't know what software that your company uses, you won't know where to even start for this. And doing canary in the coal mine. Set up a share that is open, has a couple files in it, and alert on all access to it. Normal people won't know that it's there anyways. A script will find it. So set up a SQL server. Nobody's supposed to, do database queries to it. Alert on that. Whatever is one of the bigger roles that is in your infrastructure. Take something and make a fake copy of it. For pulling out like OSINT emails. So on your website, where nobody can see it, put it in white text on white background, put it in black text on a black background, put a fake email address. Anytime that email address gets emailed, it's somebody scraping your site, sending to everybody that it can find. And egress filtering. So many people don't filter outbound traffic because, all the threats come from the outside, right? There's no way that somebody's going to bring a laptop in from home infected everywhere and get everything else infected. Huh? All your DNS runs through China. Mine too. Purple teaming. More purple teaming. So, like I said, I consider myself really, really shitty at everything offensive, but some of it's not super difficult. There are so many good tools out there that you can do basic red teaming inside your organization. Responder it was listed as one of the top tools used to gain domain admin by Spider Labs. They wrote it, but a little biased. It's great. It's an amazing red team tool. You can see all the NetBIOS queries, so NetBIOS and LMNR, which I always say super fast. Windows PCs use that before they call out to DNS, and it can be very easily spoofed with Responder. Credentials can be captured over that. So Nmap and MassScan will show you a list of devices on your network, vulnerabilities, that kind of stuff, but be very careful. I've broken a lot of things by using these. I think I took down, what was it? It's either a checkpoint or a Fortinet just by doing a mass scan. Just brought it to its knees. Everybody's VPNs went down. Not fun. When everybody calls you, are you doing a scan? I'm like, yeah, but you weren't supposed to know about it. Metasploit's free. Learn how to use it. Just do some of the scanning tools that are in there. RAR is pretty neat. It will scan your network and give you a nice little printout of all the websites it finds. So just like a screenshot of everything that it finds that's like sitting on port 80 or 443 on a range that you give it. And SET, Social Engineering Toolkit, is what I used for phishing our end users. So everybody groans when you talk about compliance. Nobody likes a QSA. Nobody likes having to deal with PCI, HIPAA, SOX, whatever ISO standard that you have to comply with. They're not bad, though, if you think about security first, and then like, oh, well, because I did all of this, now I'm magically PCI compliant, because I followed everything, security related. I didn't just check off boxes. I did what I was supposed to do, instead of, what they thought was the bare minimum to get by. And turns out to be a great tool, no matter where you're at, is if you have to comply with any of these standards. Yeah, we need this definitely, because it's required for our PCI certification. Tie everything back to compliance. When you work with doctors, tying that to an actual, money that they have to deal with for HIPAA, they'll get on board real fast. Segmentation. That whole web server SQL thing could have probably been a little bit better if we would have had a DMZ. So separating everything that's going to be attacked from the internet from everything on the inside. It's a novel concept. Setting up VLANs. Don't just put everything on VLAN 1. You don't want a flat network. Setting up Active Directory delegation of rights. So just because you need your help desk to add computers to the domain doesn't mean that they should have domain admin. You can do that with Active Directory delegation. An access control list between your VLANs when you can't always afford a firewall. You're not going to put a firewall between every section of your network. ACLs kind of make up for when you don't always need one. And finally, to the part where you've gotten all of this done. It's all been free. You've been working for a year and a half, 2 years, 10 years on all of this free stuff. You can say, look, this is where we were. This is where we are now. This stuff would give us that extra boost to get that much further in our security. Getting the real vulnerability scanner at this point. SIM, IDS, IPS, that you actually set up and configure. just because something's, all the logs are going to it, that's great, but you're not actually looking at it, you're not doing anything with it. That's not going to do anything for you. There's a checkbox there. You pay the license, it's on, it's collecting stuff. I don't know how to get into it. I have some stories about that too that I'm not willing to divulge on camera. And getting a professional pen test at least once a year. I know some people that get a pen test monthly. No, they're not. Nessus is a pen test. It gives you this great pen test report at the end. Know the difference between a vulnerability assessment and a pen test. Usually if you get the report and it's everything that you found with your vulnerability scanner, you know they're not actually giving you what you're paying for. I hear there's a great company that's based in Northern Ohio that does penetration testing. No? Nobody heard of them? All right. Sorry. Two-factor auth is always going to cost you something. It's going to be difficult to implement, but definitely a necessary evil. Users will complain. There's no getting past that. But, with adequate training, whatever, them accessing internal systems from the internet shouldn't just be, and not only two-factor auth, but setting it up correctly. So there's some software out there that will just let you set it up. The two-factor auth is them from the software calling you back. You answer and hit pound. All right, so it's something you have, right? Technically, it's two-factor auth. Our users got so used to it that even if somebody else was logging in with their username and password somewhere, they'd answer and hit pound. Because, it's from a phone number. It's from a phone number they recognize. It's ingrained in their, they're like, oh, maybe it's something in the back end that's doing it. They have no idea that it's, so technically it's two-factor auth, right? And advanced buzzword cyber blinky boxes. There's a shit ton of them out there. Whatever one that you feel is going to provide the most network. Next gen. I should have added next gen to that. Oh, I need to hurry up. Getting organized. I'm the whole GPO thing. Like, I'm super anal about like 100% everything, right? Makes asset management really difficult for me because I always want to know everything, like down to the last device. IP address management. There's, it'd be great if people just use DNS for that. It doesn't always happen. So there's some good software out there. Don't use an Excel spreadsheet because boy is that a pain in the ass. Getting a password safe. There's a bunch out there that are free. Great paid versions too. I really like Thycotic. It's a really good one. Like for larger organizations, you could do role-based and least privileges for different passwords, different containers, that kind of stuff. And they have really cool magnets. Totally not to do with it, but incident response tabletops. These are super cool. Will give you a lot of information about how your organization works as a whole. We had a customer do an incident response one week. The next week, they got hit with almost exactly what they were planning on and what we did in the tabletop, and they still fucked it up. Yeah, but way less than they would have if they wouldn't have done the tabletop. They changed a lot at that point to, who they need to call, what processes they need to go for, the different situations that might arise. Doing those, giving everybody kind of a practice, isn't going to make it so when it happens in real life, they're running around like crazy and can't figure out what to do, who to call, whatever. And not just tabletops, doing the drills too, if you can. I mean, sometimes there's, limitations to drills that you can do, depending on, how much downtime that you can take. And writing it all down. Knowing exactly from those tabletops and from those drills, keeping it in a procedure where everybody has access to it so you know what you're supposed to do. So this is good, kind of just for, it's true, right? You could do all of this stuff to lock down your network. You could have, rock solid, but going back to user education, if your users just up and give up their password, you're still on fire. That user's going to help that little last percent. All right. All done. Questions? When's the book come out? You can buy it now. And if you find me, I only have one left on me, but I have coupons for the book right now. You can get it on O'Reilly's website. You can get it on Safari if you have a Safari subscription. And if you get it now, you get the chapters as they come out. Physical copy comes out in March. Yes, sir. 3 million devices still run Java, and 2,999,999 shouldn't be. Yeah. Say thanks to Lee, too.